Zoe, the break room girl. She's a good old girl. Old Zoe's had treatments for cancer. I don't know how old she is. I'd have to ask Tina. She's an old one, but she's a fighter. She's my break room girl. Real early in the morning here, got a quick little aluminum job I want to show you, and this is the typical bad situation when somebody's got something that's damaged aluminum. What I've got here is a water tank, a hot water tank for a camper. I've welded 2 of these within the last few years where they were cracked because somebody forgot to winterize their camper. The fella's telling me that he was doing some plumbing on this and he cranked down on a fitting, and this crack was caused as a stress crack because he was cranking on the fitting, is what he said. So this would be the first one like that, because the other ones I messed with were a result of not winterizing properly and allowing the water to freeze in the tank and bust. Now, the reason this is a bad situation, the guy tried to JB weld it. That's not going to seal an aluminum hot water tank. But what it will successfully do is contaminate the hell out of the aluminum that you now have to TIG weld. And what happens is, I mean, you got to grind it off there. You got to get rid of it. Welding or grinding, either one, just the basic act of warming up the material, whether it be from welding, preheat, or friction from trying to power brush or grind, it'll reliquefy certain parts of that epoxy, which causes those liquids to go down into cracks. Some of it will end up in the tank. It'll ooze around everywhere. It doesn't always like grind away. It more like wants to smear around. It's like trying to power wash a really greasy piece of heavy equipment. If you ever tried to power wash, you know, like in the engine bay of a dozer, you're basically just blasting grease from here over to there, and then you go over here to wash it, and you're blasting the grease from here over to there. That's what grinding and power brushing epoxy's like when somebody tries to epoxy or JB weld something. And if this was steel, to do a repair on it, you would just burn right through that shit. You know, you'd power brush it, hit it, weld it up. It's just not like that with aluminum. When you go to weld aluminum, you can't have, if there is anything there besides pure aluminum, it's going to cause you a problem. So this contamination is undesirable, but we're going to see what we can do with it. I talked to the guy. I even looked up to see about the cost of a new tank, which didn't look like it was that expensive, but I can't guarantee for 100% that the tank that I found online is this exact tank. So if we were to buy another tank, there's a risk in it being the wrong one. You know, it's not something you're going to find in town. You'd have to order it. And if you order it and it's different, then you got another list of problems. But I talked to him and I said, what do you want to do? Because I found a tank online that looks like this, that you can buy brand new for $80. It'd be $80 plus shipping. And, you know, I said, I don't know that I can fix that thing for that. It depends on how much trouble I have with the epoxy. I know I could if he had not epoxied it. Based on looking at this crack, I could have fired up my TIG, hit that with a stainless steel wire brush and welded across there for a lot less work than it's going to be to just try to remove the JB weld. Removing the JB weld is going to be probably more work than what it would have been to weld the crack. But he didn't know that, and I just want to spread the word on something like that. Don't try that epoxy. Don't even try that JB weld. unless your plan is to throw it away when you find out that it doesn't work. If you're thinking, well, I'll JB weld it, and if that doesn't work, I'll get somebody to weld it, just get them to weld it. So let's take a look. So that's as small as the crack is. You can see it's all gouged up and where he's tried to grind on it. And this is the JB weld that he gooped around it. And there's quite a bit of it, you know, a whole lot more than right there at the crack. So I don't know, let's see what we can do with it. He wanted me to try it, so that's what we're going to do. All right then, y'all that follow the channel, you probably know that my go-to for TIG welding aluminum is the Arc Captain TIG 200P. Stuff that I can put on the table that I can run with the foot pedal, I do with the Arc Captain TIG 200P. We're in a situation right now where I need to make another adapter for my 240 volt to run my Arc Captain machines. But what I'm doing day to day right now requires that I'm using the Arc Captain MiG 200 that I'm running off the Super Service truck, running off the Trailblazer 302, the Miller Trailblazer 302 being used as a generator, and I'm plugging in the Arc Captain MiG 200 into the Trailblazer 302 on the 240 volt with my adapter, and the adapter's set up on the truck and I don't feel like taking it off there. That means if I'm not going to take it off there, I can't run my Arc Captain TIG 200P in the shop. So what I did was I just TIG welded that with the prime weld. Another thing I'll mention, one big advantage with my Prime Weld 225 TIG machine, I've mentioned before and I'll say again, you can get a TIG control TIG button for a Prime Weld 225. And you can also get it for a lot of Miller and Lincoln TIG machines. You cannot get it yet for an Arc Captain. So when I adjust my heat during welding with the Arc Captain, I use a foot pedal. Here's the thing. There's a lot of positions where a foot pedal is not ideal. And this is one of them where I could have used the foot pedal. I certainly could have set that up where I could have, and probably would have been better if I would have sat down. But there are certain times up underneath of something welding or on a ladder where this TIG button is great. And I'm going to show you the TIG button again. This you can get on tigcontrol.com and get a TIG button. And what this does, the harder you press that button, the more amps you get. So, I'm simply amazed that that button is so sensitive, that it works just like a foot pedal, and it can tell by the amount of pressure that I'm putting on my finger. It can give me more and less heat, just with your finger. That is simply amazing, but I'm telling you, it works, and it works great. And that is one reason why I absolutely I have to keep the Prime Weld, even though I actually prefer TIG weld and aluminum with the Arc Captain TIG 200P. No complaints with the Prime Weld, but I prefer the Arc Captain. I don't know why. I've always had better luck. And the other thing that I've found worth knowing about AC TIG machines is I have run my Prime Weld 225 off of the 240 volt on my Miller Trailblazer 302 on the Super Service truck. No problem whatsoever. I cannot run the Arc Captain TIG 200P off the 240 volt, off the generator, off the Trailblazer 302 on the Super Service truck. And I've contacted Arc Captain to figure out why, and the reason why is because Miller doesn't actively regulate the voltage on that, and sometimes that voltage spikes up to 280 volts. The Arc Captain has safety in it that stops it, it shuts it down if it senses more than 265 volt AC. And when you put when I put my Arc Captain in the shop and plug it in the wall current never goes over 265. It's that, a lot more steady than a generator. But just so you know, had no issues whatsoever running the Prime Weld off the Trailblazer 302, but I cannot run the Arc Captain TIG 200P off the Trailblazer 302. Now, I don't have that same issue with the Arc Captain MiG 200. The Arc Captain MiG 200 runs off the 240 on the Trailblazer just fine. Little bit of information there I was going to share with you, and let's look at what I welded on this tank. So he had this coupling where he was cranking down on a fitting and got a crack. The crack was in the it was in the other side. The crack was on this side. Yeah, he's still got a right here crack. So the crack was right here. I welded all the way around it. I mean, if you're going to start welding on it, why not, right? So, and I think, it's contaminated, but it's going to hold. I don't know if it'll be in the final video, but I realized when I was power brushing this that I needed to take that 90-degree fitting out. This part of the fitting was in the way, preventing me from power brushing like I wanted to, and I put them vice grips on it. Them vice grips was laying there handy. And I think at that point we might have figured out why he cracked this. That freaking fitting was tight. uh, with some Teflon on the threads, and this being aluminum, I don't think you would have needed to get that fitting anywhere near that tight. It was really in there. It was over tightened, I think, but that might have been why he cracked it. Anywhoser, she's welded up. All right. So that's how that goes. You know, if you run into that, the way I went about cleaning off that JB weld is, at first I used a regular bead brush like I used to clean my welds on steel, and it was not a stainless steel bead brush. And that's on the high RPM tool that I wouldn't normally run on aluminum. So let's take a look at that. It was just a regular 4-inch grinder, like in the 8 to 10, 12,000 RPM range, with a bead brush on it. That's what I removed the JB weld with. Now, when you run the high RPM tools like that, you don't want to run high RPM tools like that on your aluminum a whole lot. It'll start smearing it around, and the high RPM doesn't work well on aluminum. What I normally clean aluminum with is this. This is a low RPM grinder with a stainless steel power brush, and it is not a knotted brush. It's an unknotted brush. That does really good on aluminum, and that's how I cleaned that up. And so it was pretty much, I was just using the high RPM, the really aggressive tool, to remove the JB weld. Once I got the JB weld out of the way, I got that tool put away and power brushed the actual aluminum with the lower RPM unknotted stainless steel power brush. And that's the doozing we got done here. This is going to be fine, even though I wish he hadn't tried to JB weld it. He probably, even though this isn't a big job and it didn't take a tremendous amount of time, he probably doubled the amount of time that it took me to fix it, just because of the fact that he got that JB weld on there. And it's still contaminated by that JB weld. It always will be. So it's definitely less than perfect, but we got a decent repair out of it. I want to thank y'all for watching. And I want you to remember, like I always say, y'all learn how to work with what you got. That way you'll always have everything you need.